welcome to Comic-Con at Home. My name is Jeff Spry. I'm a writer for SYFY Wire, and I'll be your host for Invader Zim Conquers Everything, where we'll be talking with an impressive panel of authors and creators involved with the Invader Zim universe, from the Oni Press comics, Nickelodeon's animated series, Invader Zim movie Enter the Floorpus, and a new Art of Invader Zim book. So first, let me introduce everyone here. We have Eric Trueheart and Aaron Alexovich from the Invader Zim show and comics. We've got Drew Rausch, Zim writer and artist, and Chris McDonnell, author of the new ABRAMS book, The Art of Invader Zim. So how's everybody doing today?
Not bad, not bad.
Pretty good.
Very good.
Excellent.
It's fine.
So,
Nothing hurts.
First question I've got for everyone. Invader Zim seems more alive now than ever. What do you attribute the intense fan love for Invader Zim, and why has it remained so relevant in pop culture?
Just the cruelty of the universe, I think. It's just it's the darkness in all of our souls.
In a just universe, this would have disappeared decades ago, but the universe is not a just place. So.
Yeah, it's a tenacious thing. I think it's the audience. It's the people that kept it alive all these years. It just tapped into some kind of strange energy back in 2001, and people have kept it going since then. And it's a surprise to all of us, really, that this simple thing that only lived for a year and a half is still out there, just still kicking.
Yeah. I also think there might be something to the fact that when we were making that show, we weren't making a kids show necessarily. We were making a show for all the demented sensibilities of us on the staff. And I think because of that, it's a show that you can discover when you're a kid, and then you come back to it when you're an adult, and it's hopefully just as entertaining and just as twisted, because we were really trying to make ourselves laugh. And if kids laughed too, that was fine.
It's a bonus.
Mm-hmm. And it seems like Invader Zim really forged a path for edgier, darker humor. And what do you think the legacy of Invader Zim is, looking back 20 years and seeing how animation has developed?
I actually think Zim was pretty unique. I don't know that a whole lot of things are like it now. I think maybe there are some things in adult animation that we influence, but kids animation seems to have veered off in a different direction than Zim.
I mean, Joe,
I like to think that we're trailblazers, but I don't see a whole lot of Zim out there. I feel like it's still a niche that could be filled today.
It was a unique path, a unique fork off the main road there.
Yeah, like everyone's terrified to follow in our footsteps. Well, probably because it was a huge failure.
Yeah, Jonan Vasquez's sensibility does not always translate well to anything that he doesn't do. So you don't see us on PBS. or you never. There was no dark, disturbing shows on the Hub, as far as I know. It was pretty unique. I mean, you can feel the influence in more adult animation, like Aaron said.
Yeah, like Rick and Morty, I think, has a little bit of that Zimmy feel to it. There's been other shows, but kid stuff. It took a different direction. It went into that like Fairly Odd Parents direction, I think, right after us.
Right. So let's just dive right into the new book. On July 28th, Abrams is releasing The Art of Invader Zim, which is this amazing volume of production art, storyboards, never-seen sketches, all spawned from Zim creator Jonan Vasquez's twisted brain. Chris and Aaron, can you take us through a little bit of how that project began and what fans can expect inside this new book?
How did it begin? Yes, it was over a year ago in terms of the book actually being produced. As I do with these kind of book projects, I come out to the studio and I spend a week or so researching and digging through the archives, which is absolutely my favorite part, plus talking to artists such as Aaron, Jonan, and the crew of Floorpus, who were there at the time. It was kind of like a skeleton crew. Oh, no, actually, the whole movie was kind of made up with a skeleton crew, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a very small crew.
Right. And then some people from the original series came in to do interviews, and I of course followed up after the fact. And Aaron, what else is there to say in terms of that?
I mean, I just read the book the other day. I finally got a copy of it, and I was just blown away by how dense it is. Like how much stuff you managed to dig up. It is a really beautiful, just stuffed tome that I think people are really going to love. And it was almost like going through a yearbook for me because, you know, I've been with Invader Zim since the very beginning. So going through that book was like, it's bringing back so many memories for me. I guess when most people look through a yearbook, they're like, oh, there's my best friend. There's all these experiences I had. Me, it's like, look at this hideous child that I drew. Look at these horrible monsters. It's beautiful memories for me.
Well, that's an awesome compliment for the book. Thank you very much. I actually was thinking about how I make these books because I've done a couple of these about different animated series, and I think I've sort of come to think of them almost like a zine, you know, putting it together through just without much of a central like guiding concept besides like I'm just going to dig into what I find and then try to process through it and then just put it on the page. And so dense is definitely one of the objectives, getting as much in there as possible.
I think we have a picture of the cover and some of the interior artwork. There we go, Chris.
Yeah, and if the picture comes up, that's fine too. Yeah.
Yes. Woo!
There we go.
Magic.
In compiling the artwork and researching the material, Chris and Aaron, did you discover any surprising things you had forgotten about, or Aaron had forgotten about, or some little known facts from the cartoon series or the animated feature?
You know, I hadn't seen a lot of Jonan's like original sketches of it. One of the things that surprised me most was that there's actually in one of his old comics, I don't know if it was Squee or Johnny, I think it was Squee, there's actually a drawing of a little alien character in there that is just exactly Invader Zim. That character must go back to like 1995 or something. It was just really shocking to see that. So it was kind of fun to see the development of things even before I arrived on the series.
Here, I could do a little show and tell there.
Yeah, there he is.
This is an early Zim right there. It says little green guy next to it. And then on the opposite page, that's a cropped comic page, but it does have that same alien guy there, which is basically Zim. So.
And one of the image we're looking at right now, the character attitude reference guide. These reference guides are hilarious. Aaron and Chris, can you guys talk a little bit about the complexity of the character designs and how it seems very simple, the design, however, it's incredibly imaginative and complex.
Yeah, the designs look pretty simple, but they are actually very difficult to animate in a lot of ways. I think it's mostly because of the harsh angles on them. And Jonan was very specific about the proportions and the exact angles he wanted in every character. And that was sometimes hard to translate the studio overseas. So we'd get stuff coming back that looked really wonky. And when you're dealing with someone as specific as Jonan is, there's a lot of back and forth that happens. I was telling Chris way back when that some of the designs didn't even make sense to me 100% until I saw them realized in 3D form when action figures started coming out. Like Gaz's hair is the one that really sticks out to me. The way that sort of weird shell goes around it never really made sense dimensionally to me, and we just kind of like fudged it during the development of the series. But as soon as I had that action figure on my hand, years later, I was like, yeah, of course, this makes sense.
There's some nice, I know this was online too, but there's some, this is a nice layout of the comparisons of where the main characters went from the series to Florpus, the TV movie. So there was a lot of, I know Aaron can speak to that too, right? Because
yeah,
well, designer.
I worked on the series and the movie, and one of the things I wanted to do with the movie, and that Jonan also wanted to do, was to nail down some of these designs so that they made a little bit more sense dimensionally. And Gaz's hair was one of the big ones. It's, like, that actually has some logic to it now, and I think she looks way cooler now. Pretty much everything in the movie looks cooler than the original series, because you always want to up your game, right?
What do you hope readers take away from this book while they ingest the imagination and detail that went into the making of Invader Zim?
Oh, I guess I just want them to appreciate all the work that went into it, because it was a tremendous lot of work to try to serve such a specific vision. It wasn't like any other cartoon before or since, and so that takes a little more fussing than things that sort of feel like they're more off the shelf. I just want people to see the blood, sweat, and tears that went into that. And I think Chris's book does that, because it's just so full of the back and forth.
I was feeling, looking at some of the layout drawings, among other things, and thinking of the cruel irony that this was all broadcast in standard definition.
Right. Yeah.
Because there is just so much line work and precision and just technical ability across the board that I had no idea until I went and dug into this, and really got to see it up close. Well, so that's why there's a lot of it in here.
Yeah, you almost need to see those old episodes in HD to really appreciate them. So I don't know what we were thinking.
So let's move on. So Oni Press's monthly Invader Zim series ended this spring with issue 50, and I think we have a picture image of the cover and some artwork for issue number 50. Looking back over the 5-year run of the Invader Zim comics with Oni Press, what stands out most for you guys? What are you left with? What do you take away?
Drew, do you want to start with that one? Okay.
No.
I'll start. As someone who, wrote on the original show, it was actually a lot of fun to go back and revisit the characters, and also to be able to drop in and do little oddball things that we never would have been able to do on the show. We had a story called Star Donkey, which probably would not have been approved. And it was an opportunity to just title something Star Donkey and have the characters say Star Donkey a lot during it. And because we didn't have the elaborate, executive approval process, we had one person from Nickelodeon saying yes or no, and we had Jonan giving his blessing or not on things. It was such a more streamlined process than the original show. And so, and one of the other things that it gave me the opportunity to do is revisit a couple of script ideas that never made it into the series, but we were able to do as comics. So technically there are a couple of lost episodes thrown around in there, including the brand new Zim Quarterly is technically a lost episode, Gur's Big Day, which we can talk about when we get there.
Right. Real quick, Drew, I'd like to hear your thoughts about your involvement with the series, and especially Pop Goes the Skeleton, which is like, I love that.
It's a great issue.
What are your experiences with Invader Zim, and how do you carry it sort of with you in your life?
In my heart, always.
In a sack, stuck to his face, like a fleshy sack that's connected to his body, and he has to drain it periodically.
Yeah, it's a whole process. I mean, I grew up on Johnny and Squee. Like, I was like a spooky kid, and all those comics, like all those indie books, kind of appealed to me. And then, like, fast forward a few more years, and I was working in a video store, and somebody came in with a videotape. And we taped this new cartoon off Nickelodeon. It's called Invader Zim. And I think for like a week straight, we played that thing like in the store, like just on rotate. So eventually it had just kind of Yeah, it was like a tumor had formed. It was a shaped tumor. But you know, and I kind of got to know and become friends with a lot of people that worked on the show. So it's sort of been like a part of my life, like just randomly. I don't know. And then getting to work on the comic has actually been really fun. I mean, I got to do a couple covers, and I did issue 41. So like, I don't know, it kind of all came full circle. Like, oh, I finally got to work on Invader Zim.
There we go. There's your handiwork.
There it is. Hideous.
I love that cover.
Yeah, great. I like that we've all decided that Dib's hair has bones in it.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I actually had to like you know, make sure that was canon. Like I think I actually had asked Aaron. I was like, "Is the bone actually in his hair?" And he's like, "Yeah, God, cool." Because otherwise, it was just gonna look like a random skeleton.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I just wanted to do a story where there wasn't gonna be a lot of talking, because Eric and Jonan have such a unique voice to these characters that if I tried to emulate it, it would just kind of fall flat. So it was like, all right, well, I'll just do a skeleton, and the skeleton won't talk. Just be sight gags.
It speaks for itself just in the gaze and the giant hair bone on top of its head. I think it communicates a lot to the audience in ways that words never could.
That's high praise. Thank you, Eric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that wasn't
where the skeleton is coming out of his face will haunt me forever, Drew.
As long as I can do my part.
That's one of the best episodes.
So the first Invader Zim Quarterly was just released June 17th.
Yep.
Gur's big day. And Eric, I think you mentioned that this was based on an unaired or an unproduced script from the show. How did this special issue story evolve? And what are some of your favorite jokes and gags you were able to finally bring to life in this?
Well, how did it evolve in a pit of primordial soup that collected underneath my bed? I don't know. I think. Well, what happened was Oni Press came to us and said we're transitioning to quarterly. Which to me was like, great. That means I don't have to pull my hair out coming up with as many stories. But they asked if there was anything we wanted to do. And one of the things that they were doing was giving it more pages because they figure it's coming out less often. People may as well get a larger dose of Zim at one time, which hopefully will just live inside them and sustain them for the next 3 months. And I knew that, I don't know what I knew, but I knew that like if I pulled Gur's Big Day out of the pile, that was a show. It wasn't even unproduced. It was like unapproved, really. It was one of these premises that I kicked around for ages and kept running up the ladder. And they kept saying, yeah, so but what happens in it? And I'd be like, a lot of random goofy stuff. And I get kidnapped by an animal testing lab and blah. Yeah, but what happens in it? What is his arc? And the thing about Gur is that, Gur is a character that's very resistant to arcs because of all the characters who not only don't change, but don't or change so fast that even the idea of an arc is ridiculous. It's Gur. So I saw this comic as an opportunity to not only revisit that story, but revisit it in a format that was going to support how random it was and weird and goofball because, Gur is broken and he never can stay on task. He basically has attention deficit of one kind or another. And I wanted to show what happened. This is probably even going back to one of the early stories where Zim calls for Gur, maybe it's in Saucer Morons, and you cut to Gur who's in a disco dancing with a bunch of girls. And there's sort of this question of how did Gur get there? So in my mind, Gur lives a very large life outside of what he does for Zim. And so to follow Gur outside of the house and go through this incredibly elaborate series of adventures that Zim has no idea about kind of spoke to me as part of the legend of Gur. And I thought it would be fun to just embrace the stupid, as Jonan likes to say. And
yeah, it's probably the most chaotic Zim thing that we've made yet.
Which is perfect for Gur.
Yeah, it should be. Mm-hmm.
And Aaron did if I may say, with him here, which will be awkward. Yes, okay. He did an amazing job on the art. Aaron has a way of drawing comic frames that are just invoke the funny, invoke laughing without even reading a word that it says. And so when I did the layouts or specified frames and whatnot, or panels rather, in there, I kind of knew in my head how Aaron was going to be able to wrap his art brain around it. And that was a real fun bonus.
Well, thank you. It was a really fun issue to work on. It's so different from all of the other issues because, you know, it's GUR based. So in some way it almost feels happier. It's more happy-go-lucky, more goofy, which it isn't Zim. It's the least screamy issue I think we've ever done.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of it that way, but yeah, I think I even added GUR screaming something in the revision because I think sometimes there wasn't enough screaming in it.
There's just no anger in this thing.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of that, and one of my favorite parts is the berry, the aliens that look like blueberries that bought the spaceship that looks like a pie, and they didn't realize it. I still wake up every morning laughing about that. That just some phenomenal stuff.
It's funny, we probably wouldn't have been able to do that on the series, right? Because those guys are being devoured by
literally being eaten alive by GUR.
Yeah, I don't think we could have done that on the show.
A good thing that they're so horrible. I mean, they're just vicious, violent berry aliens bent on capturing.
Yeah, well, look, they're just berries.
Yeah, angry pirate Klingon berries, and you know, vicious warlike creatures who devastate planets and leave a streak of juice in their wake every time.
Yeah, they had it coming.
They did. They really did. And also, we were able to cut away to the salesman who sold them the pie ship, which we never been able to do. You know, so
they're like, yeah, how did they not notice?
Yeah, they didn't notice. I know, right?
How do you guys keep the humor and violence consistent in all the franchise's iterations? And what's the trick to maintaining sort of a chemistry and synchronicity?
I mean, I had GUR rip off the arms of a skeleton, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I had to really dial back. I really struggled with, well, should the skeleton also be wearing his internal organs? And you know, is that something that would be approved? And I remember Robin saying, yeah, that would be fine, but we have to leave out the TLC joke. And I was like, oh, yeah, there was a TLC joke. I don't remember what it was, but she was like, Jonan wouldn't like that. And I was like, okay.
Oh. The band or the?
Yeah, the band.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, Eric. Sorry.
I don't know. I mean, you know, there's always a certain level of horror in all of it, but it gets put through a certain cartoon filter that puts a distance on it. You know, so for example, you can have GUR literally eating a live race of giant berries, but if they had been, you know, and there's juice flying everywhere, which is their blood, if you think about it. But the point is, you don't think about it because they're berries, and that's very cartoony, you know. And I think we also draw a lot of inspiration from just general dark stuff in general, like the evil darkness trapped on the moon. But every time we do something horrible, but that the evil darkness trapped on the moon is in the issue. You'll have to buy it and read it, or steal it and read it, or, you know.
Didn't you guys in issue 2 blow up an entire planet?
Did we? I think we've done that so many times.
Doesn't the Star Donkey destroy all of reality?
He kicks. Yeah, he does. The Star Donkey actually kicks the Earth into the sun, but then there's an immediate reset button that has not been explained to this day. But just with Zim saying, "Hey, remember the time?" or Dib saying, "Remember the time you wanted to do that thing, and I told you not to do a thing, and then everything got destroyed." And Zim says, "No," and we're back to normal. So. There's something about the cartoon reset button that can make a lot of things okay.
We need that for this year.
That you should push things as dark as you want it to be and let somebody else tell you to pull it back.
Yeah. The Invader Zim plague issue of the comic has not come out yet. And I don't think that's in the works, but
I mean, this is a TV series that had Zim stealing organs from children. I mean, it gets pretty dark, you know.
Yeah. Pulling the eyes out of a character, replacing them with robot eyes.
Yeah.
But, you know, even then, that was in silhouette, and it's not like I saw entrails coming off the back of the eyes. It was very cartoony, popped out. So I think it's cartoony representations of incredibly horrible ideas that maybe make it work.
Are you guys surprised that the humor that worked in it almost 20 years ago still works 20 years later? Because a lot of humor doesn't work that way, but this type of humor still does, even more so, I believe, today. What do you guys think?
Huh. I wasn't surprised until you mentioned it, because I hadn't thought of it that way.
I think there's always a place for dark humor. I think even for kids, I think even kids have that appetite for laughing at the things that scare them or the things that they find uncomfortable. And I think we don't lean into that enough as creators necessarily.
Yeah.
So when something like Zim shows up, it's bound to build a cult audience because people are hungry for that kind of thing.
And I think also, as I was saying earlier, the fact that we had a crew of very sort of funny people, like the artists and the writers, and who were basically working to make themselves laugh. Like Jonan wouldn't let something through unless he thought it was genuinely funny. Whereas, over the years, you end up working on one show or another where they just sort of feel like, oh, a joke goes here. This will be fine. And kids will laugh at this. We don't want to do something that kids won't laugh at, even if we don't think it's funny. So I think having that adult sensibility behind it means it sort of scales forward. You like it when you're a kid and you come back to it when you're an adult. And, when I was a kid, I grew up watching Looney Tunes, and that always seemed like a window into the adult world, because clearly they were doing that to make themselves laugh. So
right. You mean those Humphrey Bogart jokes weren't for kids?
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. Well, and most people forget that a lot of those Warner Brothers cartoons were put in the middle of a Humphrey Bogart double feature that you went to the movies to see. No one watched those on television, so they were the only place you could see them was in movie theaters, which was mostly during an adult double feature or adult matinee or some sort of a screening of a more mature movie. So a lot of the jokes were sophisticated. There's Eddie Cantor jokes in it that I don't know.
We should get some of those into Zim, Aaron.
To this day, I don't know what alum is, but I think Elmer Fudd swallowed a bunch of it at one point, and his head shrank down tiny.
Yeah, I remember that.
I think that's the one thing about the show, and probably why it's lasted so long, is that it's one of those cartoons that you kind of had to really pay attention to, or like you missed the joke, like because there was just so much chaotic energy happening that if you weren't actively watching it, like it went like right over your head.
Right. Yeah. I think it lends itself to the digital era too, because
the rewatch value.
And like go step through it and find all the background gags. You wouldn't have been able to do that back in the day.
Yeah, the board artists were really kind of let off the chain for that show, because there were some incredibly funny board artists who, when I would write something and Jonan would then would give it to them and whatnot, that they knew they were going to be up until 4 a.m. boarding it, but it was something so cool that they'd never had a chance to storyboard that they just dove into it and threw every last hilarious thing into it, and Steve Russell encouraged that too. So I think that really shows.
I read a bunch of really crazy fan theories tied to Invader Zim. And I don't know if
they're all true.
If you guys have heard, there's the Buzz Lightyear and the Zerg, and another one about American reproduction and alien chest bursters. What are some of your favorite fan theories about the show that you've read or heard about or heard rumored?
I just love all the cancellation rumors that you hear over here.
Because Gur was like filled with blood or something. That was
my favorite
what I grew up on.
Keeps coming up is Bloody Gur is what got us canceled. It was just like a subliminal one frame Gur covered in blood that got us yanked off the air. And I believe he is in there though, isn't he?
It is, yeah. It might even be in more than one, but the idea of that one frame that nobody saw, like got sent up the Viacom ladder to Sumner Redstone's office, heads will roll. No, that's not it. In terms of fan theories about stuff in the show, I haven't heard many. I try to avoid them because they're almost all wrong. So I don't like to get in the middle. I don't want to crush somebody's dreams, and I also don't want to get annoyed by how ridiculous something is.
There's a Jimmy Neutron one also about how the characters in Jimmy Neutron align with the characters in that.
Right. Do you remember that, Eric? We were making fun of Jimmy Neutron in one of those episodes.
Were we? I know we were mad at Jimmy Neutron because we couldn't do the pants episode.
That's what it was. It was the pants thing. You should
I
tell
love this story.
thing.
Yeah. And quick plug for me. I recently published a book called The Medium-Sized Book of Zim Scripts, Volume 1. And it's available on BookBaby and Amazon. But I cover the whole
perfect companion to the art book, actually.
Perfect companion. And also to get back to Oni Press, we did a lost episode called Pants, and it was in issue 8, which I believe is in the second volume of the trade collection, if you want to see a genuine lost episode. And it was basically going to be Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but with pants. A race of alien pants were coming to Earth and had made an alignment with Zim to take everything over. Dib has left town and come back to discover everyone wearing really disgusting, veiny, like H.R. Giger designed pants. And demanding they put them on to be fashionable, but clearly they've taken over their minds. And it was going to end with this amazing Dance Dance Revolution style dance off between Zim in a pair of robo pants and Dib wearing the leader of the pants called the Uber trouser. And it came together really well. And Nickelodeon said no. And we said, well, why not? And they said, well, Jimmy Neutron is doing a Christmas special called When Pants Attack, so you can't do this. And we
can't have too many cartoons with pants.
Yeah, isn't that called corporate synergy right there?
Right.
Crossover.
Let's make a deal with with J. Crew. I don't know. And we said, but first of all, it's you can have more than one pants story on a network. And said, no, we can't. And I said, well, it's going to be almost 9 months to a year before we're even done. No one's going to remember that. I said, no, you can't do that. And I said, and then Jonan said, which I think scored us a lot of points. He said, but it's Jimmy Neutron. It's not like it's anything anyone cares about. So, and that's
we were lovely people.
Didn't win anybody over. So I detail the whole story in the book. But yeah, as far as us, carrying a facetious resentment of Jimmy Neutron. We actually, in the big picture, didn't hold anything against Jimmy Neutron.
But I did do a drawing of like a Jimmy Neutron style character that was supposed to like be stuck in a tank in Zim's lair or something. And it was just this grotesque kid. He was kind of like the most horrible cartoon character ever. He was replaced with something else eventually. But yeah, I still have that drawing.
Oh, wow. You should be watching that.
What's next on the horizon for more Zim Quarterly comics? Maybe another animated feature, or perhaps another cartoon series revival. Anything on in the works?
We will be doing an animated feature in the comics. It will be you open the comic and the movie will play for 66 minutes.
Awesome.
No, I don't know. Aaron, you were talking before I joked over you. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to give you the incredible insight that I have not heard anything.
Yeah. And the quarterlies will continue, obviously, and the next one will be out in the fall. Correct? Can you tease any bit about that?
Well, I'm not as up on issues 2 and 3 or the next issues. Actually, I don't know what order they are now. I am writing a Christmas episode. Christmas issue, which will have some sort of expand stories that maybe we've only heard of, like what happened to the little Santa device that Zim used once it got ejected into space, and also a little bit of background on Membrane versus Santa Claus and why he built the Santa Arsenal. I hope it's entertaining for people who even aren't that intimately familiar with the first episode. It's not going to be quite as goofy as the Gurr story, but we're looking forward to that.
Well, I've read your draft and it is pretty goofy.
Okay, well, fair enough. I'm just got there with my teeth gritted and holding back the tears as I write it. So.
And I'm going to be drawing that one. So good, I guess it's a few shorts, and I might not be doing all of them. But it's cool that we're going back into the Christmas area, though, because that episode of the original series is like everybody's favorite. People keep mentioning that one to me, like they watch it every year with their kids. It's a wonderful life, apparently.
That's sweet.
Yeah, I'm glad you're going to explore Membrane's hatred of Santa Claus.
Yeah, he's going to have a little inner conflict on that because Well, I don't want to get too much into it.
No.
Let's just say belief in Santa is kind of inherently unscientific. So how do we reconcile that?
Last question for you guys. For everyone, next year marks the 20th anniversary of Invader Zim, so to speak. Any big plans to celebrate the occasion, and will it include bologna or chocolate pudding?
It's going to be a gigantic
Together?
bologna. We're going to burn it.
Bologna, roll them into burritos. A little bologna chocolate burrito. I don't know if anybody's planning anything, and this is probably something I shouldn't tell out of school, but I happen to know that after Florpus aired, nobody from Nickelodeon or Netflix called up Jonan to say, "Hey, nice job." So I might not be allowed to tell people that, but I just did. The feeling might be that there might not be people at Nickelodeon or Netflix who are really focusing on the fact that this is coming up. So it might be incumbent upon fans to remind them, and that's basically the very vague thing I can say.
I just know that everybody that was on the Florpus crew would love to make more. That's it's going to be up to the fans to resurrect it again at this point.
Yeah. I think everybody would love to see more. I mean, the Florpus was getting 100% in Rotten Tomatoes, at 100% positive. Granted, it wasn't, reviewed by 500 different outlets like, say, an Avengers film is, but it was doing really well, and it got a great response, and it kept popping up on everyone's Netflix queue, and it seems like it did real well. So why not do another one? Except it might kill everybody having to go through that again.
Well, I think the coolest thing would be just to do a movie every couple of years or something.
Yeah. Like Star Trek.
That level of quality. Yeah, like Star Trek.
Yeah, and Zim can keep gaining weight like Shatner did.
Well, he has been letting himself go. So
yeah.
That is all I have for you guys. I just want to tell you, thank you so much for allowing me to be the ringmaster of this crazy cosmic circus, so to speak, that is Invader Zim. I appreciate all the great things you guys have all done with the franchise, and best of luck to all the new Invader Zim projects yet to come.
Well, thank you. And I particularly want to thank Chris for putting together such an amazing book that I think people are really going to go nuts for.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
It's fantastic.
And thank Drew for the skeletons.
Thank you, Drew.
The master of skeletons.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you all again, and have a great day.
You too.
You too.